P1 Subject: Emma Frost. Everyone knows that my fellow mutants were scattered across time and space by that nasty time-stream entanglement. At first, it seemed like finding them and bringing them back home to Krakoa would be nearly impossible. But that's when the Scarlet Witch showed up and made our lives a tiny bit easier. For once, she used her reality-bending abilities to forge a new Cerebro helmet. The classic model is designed to locate mutant biosignatures and added some mystical upgrades so we could search for our people multiple dimensions. Initially, she handed it to her dear old dad, Magneto. But after his first, overly dramatic call to mutant kind, he realized that such a delicate piece of machinery would be far more useful in the hands of a skilled telepath. Enter yours truly. What Wanda didn't know is that we already had this Cerebro unit on Krakoa, one devoted to cataloging genetic profiles and memory data, so that fallen mutants could be resurrected. While mutants from every reality are welcome on Krakoa, this did create an interesting problem. Previously, each mutant from our universe had their personal data stored on our main Cerebro unit. But what happens when a Psylocke from a different timeline shows up in our own? We couldn't risk critical information being overwritten, so I had Forge create partitions in Cerebro's drives to account for alternate versions of each of us. That way, our Logan doesn't accidentally get resurrected with the mind of a wolf that happens to share his name and some of his DNA. As humorous as that would be. 2 Quiet Council, Secret 1. Soon after the mutants settled on Krakoa, the Quiet Council was formed. 12 of the most influential members of the species, divided into 4 houses of thought. The seats of Autumn were occupied by the greatest leaders mutant kind had ever known. Winter belonged to members of the council with more radical ideologies. The seats of Spring were filled by compassionate and kind mutants, dedicated to the prosperity of the species, and Summer comprised those mutants deemed fair and just. Now, with Krakoa's mutants scattered across the time stream, only 3 Quiet Council members remain: Magneto, Storm, and Emma Frost. 3 Flower Power, Secret 2. To the world at large, the island of Krakoa is known as the homeland of mutant kind. But most outsiders do not realize that Krakoa is actually a mutant itself, a living landmass that is constantly changing and evolving, just like the species of people that dwell on its surface. The unique vegetation native to Krakoa has proven to have profound pharmaceutical effects, capable of curing life-threatening diseases and extending lifespans in both humans and mutants. These flowers have become highly coveted by those beyond island's shores, making them the perfect bargaining chip between Krakoa and the outside world. 4 Hellfire Club, Secret 3. The Hellfire Club began its existence as an exclusive group of influential mutants who held elaborate anniversary parties designed to showcase their wealth, status, and power. When mutant kind chose to make the living island of Krakoa their sovereign nation, the Hellfire Club was born anew as the Hellfire Trading Company, an operation dedicated to sharing the blessings of Krakoa with a world that hated and feared mutants. Though their mission had changed, the group's annual Hellfire Gala continued on, drawing inspiration from the lavish events of days gone by, but now opening its doors to a more global guest list. Pra. 5 Subject: Wolverine. Paragraph out. Ain't usually one to share my memories, but I suppose this is just being part of a mutant now. So here we go. I've been off Krakoa for a bit, dealing with some serious business. This megacorp called Alchemax had been keeping Captain America on ice for decades, and the Black Widow finally thawed him out. Problem was, Alchemax wanted Steve back, bad, so I had to smuggle Cap to the other side of the galaxy. Wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. Paragraph out. After that, I had something personal to finish. I'd been holding on to the Muramasa blade, a cursed sword capable of cutting through just about anything, for too long. I had to deliver it to a sacred place where no one else could get their filthy hands on it. So I headed back to Tokyo to leave it at Budokan. Too bad I was being watched the whole blasted time. Paragraph out. A bunch of ninjas jumped me after I stashed the sword. In my downtime, I'd been searching for clues about what happened to my ex, Mariko. Apparently someone wasn't too happy about that fact. The claws came out, and let's just say it was a good thing those losers were wearing red. Once the rage cleared, I realized I hadn't won the fight alone. The Black Widow was on the scene, and I couldn't have been happier to see she survived that mess back at Alchemax. If you live as long as I do, watchin', countless friends and loved ones disappear into the night, you hold on to the folks you've still got, no matter where or when they come from. 6. Resistance, Secret 1. Part 1. Since Krakoa's arrival in the year 2099, not only is he actively defending Krakoa as the head of its security team, X-Force, he is also busy searching for fellow mutants strewn across time and space by the time stream entanglement. But his efforts stretch far beyond mutant kind. Logan has joined other freedom fighters in their efforts to keep Dr. Doom from crushing this future in his iron-gloved hands. If he's not on Krakoa, Wolverine is likely battling alongside Black Widow and the Punisher as part of a growing resistance, much to Magneto's dismay. Period. Part 7X Lives, Secret 2. Although Wolverine's efforts as part of the Resistance forces seem altruistic on the surface, he had a secret reason for wanting to explore the world beyond Krakoa. After being ripped through time and space, he not only lost countless friends, but also his most beloved companion, Mariko Yoshida. By joining the Resistance in Tokyo, Wolverine hoped to use their intel network to track down clues about what had happened to his long-lost love. If it meant he'd have to slash his way through countless mega-corporations and even Doom himself in the process, he had no problem with the notion. 8. X-Force, Secret 3. Due to its highly coveted natural resources, the island of Krakoa is constantly under threat of invasion from the outside world. Even though it is populated by some of the most powerful beings on the planet, it was determined that a dedicated strike force was necessary to protect Krakoan interest from those who might attempt to violently seize them. Membership of this group, known as X-Force, has been in flux since the time stream entanglement displaced many of Krakoa's citizens. But the island's head of security, Wolverine, continues to lead his fellow mutants in an effort to protect Krakoa at any cost. 4. If I'm being honest, I have never been a fan of Emma's Hellfire Galas. While I am fully aware that fostering solid diplomatic relationships can achieve a greater good for mutant kind, I would much rather be soaring on the winds than be trapped in a crowded room full of strangers. That said, this most recent gala did have one guest that made me feel a bit more at ease. The moment he stepped through the Krakoan gateway, His energy washed over me, like fresh rain cascading across the veldt. King T'Challa of Wakanda, the Black Panther, my former beloved. Even though it was instantly clear that this T'Challa was from another reality and was not the same man I had given my heart so many years ago, I could not help but feel an instant connection with him nonetheless. Once the festivities were in full swing, I approached T'Challa. The look in his eyes as he gazed upon me suggested that I was not the only one who felt sparks between us. But neither of us had come to the gala in search of romance. My people had far greater concerns. On their behalf, I implored T'Challa for assistance in investigating the seeming disappearance of Arakko, Krakoa's sister nation on Mars. Without pause, T'Challa assured me that the intergalactic empire of Wakanda would do whatever it took to help locate and restore contact between the mutant colonies. When I asked him how I could ever repay his kindness, the king told me that he merely wished to have a chance to make up for previous regrets. While I had no idea what had occurred in his past, I suddenly was quite curious to discover what might happen in our future. 10 Krakoa Seedling Secret 1. Only a select handful of outsiders have been given access to the unique biomatter found on Krakoa. After the intergalactic empire of Wakanda forged a strong alliance with the mutant nation, the Hellfire Trading Company released a small number of samples for study in Wakanda's laboratories. Under the supervision of Princess Shuri, Wakandan scientists are examining further applications of Krakoan flora beyond its widely accepted medicinal usages. Shuri herself has taken a great interest in the effects of the chronal energy absorbed by the island during the time stream entanglement, which has caused the island to spawn sentient seedlings imbued with chronovium. Quote, 11 Mars Habitat, Secret 2. Few realize that Krakoa isn't the only sentient landmass populated by mutants. Krakoa's sister nation, Arakko, once existed side by side with the living island before eventually finding a new home on the planet Mars. The two mutant colonies coexisted for some time, separated only by the void of space. But when the time stream entanglement ripped Krakoa across the decades, transplanting it into the year 2099, the mutants of Krakoa lost communication with their counterparts on Arakko. Not even the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, with all their technological advancements, have been able to locate Arakko's current coordinates in their stellar atlas. It's 12 Limbo Gate Secret 1. Strung, while some flowers native to Krakoa act as advanced pharmaceuticals, others are capable of growing into interspatial gateways between locations. One of these flowers was planted by the mutant known as Magic in the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. Using her abilities as a sorceress, Magic altered the portal to travel between dimensions. Its destination, the netherworld known as Limbo, where Magic rules as queen. Now, the Black Panther frequently visits Limbo to talk with and learn from Magic, while she uses the mystical flames of her dimension to purify the stains of blood chronovium within the Wakandan king's body. Perv. Subject: Namor. When I first traveled across time through the undersea gateway that leads to Krakoa, I found myself greeted on the island's shore by Magneto and his brood. What I hoped would be the beginning of a strategic alliance between our proud nations instead ended in veiled threats and rising tensions. The mutants wished to claim me as one of their people, an act of solidarity on the surface, but in doing so, they also wished to bind me to the laws of Krakoa. The fools. Namor follows no laws but his own. Upon returning to my own era, I initially ignored Magneto's warnings and began to prepare my army for a strike on the surface world. But I soon realized there were battles far more important than my assault on the air breathers. The damage caused by the time stream entanglement continued to ripple across time and space, crashing like waves into the very foundation of reality. I had no choice but to join this war. But on whose side would Namor fight? The answer came when I was summoned to Krakoa once more. This time by the mutant telepath Emma Frost. She too attempted to entice me into an alliance with the mutants, and she was quite persuasive in her argument. I am not certain if it was her impressive skill as a negotiator, or simply her allure as woman of great power. What can I say? Namor has a type, but Emma managed to succeed where Magneto had failed. Before the night was through, I had vowed stand with the mutants of Krakoa, and in return, my people would be granted access to Krakoa's greatest secrets. Namor will gladly honor the deal we have struck, until someone gives me reason to do otherwise. 14. Strategic Alliance. Secret 1. Due to unique physiological traits that surpass both his human and Atlantean heritage, Namor has often been categorized as a mutant. Magneto and his fellow Krakoan leaders seized upon that fact in an attempt to form a strategic alliance between the mutant nation and Namor's undersea kingdom. At first, both sides were hesitant to commit, but after some persuasion from Emma Frost, Namor eventually saw the advantage of having the combined forces of the Secret Seas and Krakoa marching behind him on the battlefield. However, history has proven that Namor's only true loyalty is to his people and to himself. 15. Security System. Secret 2. Krakoa takes full advantage of its extraordinary mutant biosphere to protect itself from external threats. Both the plankton drifting off Krakoa's coastline and the pollen floating in the air act as an early warning system, monitoring the waters and skies for even the slightest disturbances, and sending messages back to the island itself. If Namor wished, his vast power over the seas could easily disrupt the nation's defense systems, scattering these microorganisms into the turbulent ocean currents and creating blind areas that could be exploited by enemy attackers. This makes his alliance with Krakoa even more essential. Paragraph 16. Secret Seas. Secret 3. Over 70% of the planet's surface is covered in water, a percentage that has begun to rise due to the unchecked actions of megacorporations like Alchemax. While man and mutant kind have long fought to protect the surface world, there are kingdoms beneath the waves that most people rarely consider. These cities of the Secret Seas include legendary civilizations such as Talokan and Atlantis. Despite the distance between them, all of these undersea realms have been united under the rule of one monarch, Namor. The millions who dwell in the depths stand ready to prove their loyalty to the king. P.